next lesson, what we're going to do is compare and order integers. And for this lesson, we have 5 vocabulary terms. Let's get started. Our first term is an integer. Integers are the numbers. Now take a look at how I wrote it here. We have dot, 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 -2, -1, 0, +1, +2, dot, dot, dot. That ellipse, those 3 dots, are indicating that the numbers go on forever and ever into infinity, both in the negative direction, less than 0, and in the positive direction, because numbers never end. Negative integers, which is our second term, are the integers that are less than 0, and they are indicated here with a negative sign. Positive integers are the integers that are greater than 0. When you see a number that does not have a visible sign, you assume that it's positive, but if you wanted to, you could put a little plus sign next to them. Absolute value, I don't know if this is something that's new to you or not. The absolute value is a number's distance from 0 on a number line. And the word opposite means numbers are opposite when they have the same absolute value but different signs. And we will go over these terms as we work through our 3 examples. Let's take a look at example 1. Here we have to order the integers from least to greatest. So let's take a look at what our integers are. We have a -9, a -12, a +6, a -3, a +3, a 0, and a -5. Now, since we have to order them from least to greatest, what I'm going to do is mark our negative numbers because those numbers are the lowest. And the thing to remember with negative numbers, besides that they have a negative sign, is that the greater the number looks, the smaller its value actually is. Because the larger the number is, the farther away it is from 0. So that means our -12, though it looks to be the greatest, is actually the least because of the negative sign. We've taken care of that. Next, we have our -9, following -5 and -3. Here we have our 0, and that leaves us with our 2 positive numbers, 6 and 3. And when ordering positive numbers, we just go in the way that we count. So the 3 comes first, and then the 6 comes next. Let's take a look at our second example. State the absolute value. These 2 lines are sort of like brackets. That means that the process that you're doing is absolute value. And as I said before, absolute value has to do with the number of spaces or the distance a number is from 0. So in other words, if we had a number line here, and here was our number 0, and here is our +4, the distance would be 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. The absolute value of 4 is 4. And what if we were to do the same with a -11? Again, absolute value means the number of steps, the distance an integer is from 0 on a number line. A -11 is 11 steps away from the 0. And so what do you notice? Even though within the absolute value brackets we have a positive integer and a negative integer, their absolute values are always in the positive because we're not talking about are they less than 0 or greater than 0. We just want to know how far away they are. Now we have our last example. And our last example helps illustrate our last vocabulary term, opposite. And this actually is pretty easy. It's a lot easier than the definition might sound. The opposite of a +13 is quite simply a negative 13. And the opposite of a negative 8 is a positive 8. So again, here the big indicator is the sign. If you start off with a positive, the opposite is negative. And if you start off with a negative, the opposite is a positive.